Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Growth and Grace, and thanks for your patience. We had a little internet glitch at my house. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how to fix it. So we're setting some other systems up here. Hence the new background. Not new, but it's just you don't really get to see this background. This is normally what I'm looking at when I'm sitting at my desk. Those are my vision boards, and these little paintings. Drawings are things that my Granny Annie did in 1944 in art school. So pretty cool. But good morning. This morning we're going to be talking about interrupting and stopping negative patterns, negative habits. So it's a process. So let me just start right there. This isn't like a snap your fingers and voila, it's done. Voila, I'm in French mode. J'adore. So voila, just like ta-da. But we're gonna talk through the actual interruption of and stopping of negative patterns. Obviously, the very, 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 very first step is recognizing that you have a pattern and wanting to stop it, right? So that's gonna look different for every single person, as far as when you recognize it, how you recognize it, like how it's brought to your attention. For me, it's been both. Like I recognize something, I'm like, I kind of want to change that. Or it's been brought to my attention by someone else going, hey, you probably want to change that. Depending on how it's brought up, it can sometimes bring up some resistance of like, I don't know what it would look like to change that. I don't know if it's possible to change that. I feel like there's going to be a lot of things that are going to also then change in my life if I change this one thing. So I don't know if I want to change that one thing. And those are all, I understand that. So we're not going to talk through all of that today, but once you recognize that you have a pattern that you want to change and you're in that space of like, yeah, you know what, I want to change that. Here's what we're going to do. I'm looking down. I want to make sure I don't step on Cashmere. He's like right here. He's so cute. And so I'm going to share something with you that actually I had a counselor share with me years and years ago, and it's been so helpful to me. And I want to share it with you. So it's as far as interrupting the pattern goes, here's what she said. So first of all, let me start off with what I was sharing with her and how this came about. So a lot of you know my backstory, and that part of that is that I had depression for many, many years. And there was a season in that time of depression where I was addicted to online solitaire, right? And I know addiction looks like a lot of different things to a lot of different people. That was mine. And I wouldn't do anything else. Like it was how I spent so much time, and it was my way of isolating. It was my way of ignoring reality. It was my way of like, I don't feel like I'm good at anything, but boy, howdy, I can play solitaire on easy level. Like it wasn't even challenging my mind. It was just a way to escape reality. And so I would spend like a lot of time doing this, which obviously is not productive time, not moving anything forward. This was early stages of my business, so it definitely wasn't helping my business at all. Like there was nothing beneficial from it beyond it was me escaping reality. And at the time that felt beneficial because I didn't know how to address the reality I was in. I didn't know how to move through it and how to like do what I really wanted to do. I felt so stuck. And so that was my vice. Like I would log in and start playing online solitaire. So pause for a second. I feel like, because this is the first talking I do ever on Thursday mornings, my voice is not warmed up. So you're warming it up with me. Thanks, guys. And also I'm seeing that Sean is on. Good morning, Sean. Hi. Oh, I so enjoyed talking with you. I'm glad we got to connect yesterday. Okay. Addicted to online solitaire. So I'm sharing this with my counselor of like, I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I don't remember exactly how it came up, or if maybe I was like walking her through my day or something. And let me just take a side note there. When someone you're paying to help you is asking you to list out something, or asking you, like you go to the doctor and they're asking you what your habits are, or what your eating habits look like, or, do you ever work out? Do you smoke? Like, all of these things are not to make you feel ashamed. They're not to make you feel less than. They're not to make you feel like you're doing it all wrong. it's literally so they can come up with the best course of action to support you to get you to your goal. So I'm so grateful, because this was years ago. Like I wasn't emotionally where I'm at today. And I'm so grateful that in that one moment, I had the courage to say what my day actually looked like, even though I was feeling all of that shame and feeling all of that guilt and feeling all of the, I know I should be doing better. I know I should be doing different. I know I should, be smarter than spending all of my time playing online solitaire. Like I knew the things, but I wasn't doing the things. And it just takes that one moment of courage to speak up and say, yeah, this is actually what it looks like. And it was vulnerable, and it was hard, and it was scary, and it was very like, wow, I don't want to say this out loud, because then it becomes even more real that this is what I'm struggling with, right? So I get that. And I just want to encourage you that it just takes that one moment of just saying, yeah, I spent a lot of my time playing online solitaire. Like 2 seconds. And you don't have to say it eloquently. You don't have to, like, I'm certain that there was zero eye contact when I was saying this. I was not looking her in the eyes and being like, yeah, so this is my day. It's this and this and this. I was all wrapped up in my shame and my disappointment in myself and self-judgment and all of these things. So regardless of what that looks like for you, that negative pattern that you're wanting to break through, I highly, highly encourage you to say it out loud and bring light to it so that you can begin to address it and begin to move through it. So, and the fact that she's a counselor, a very trusted source, obviously that helps. So be aware of who you're telling, because not everyone is going to be supportive. I feel like I touch on this a lot when I'm encouraging you to share things and be open and bring people into your life. I also want to balance it with, depending on who you share it with, they're either going to cheer you on and support you and be like, wow, that's great, good for you, and let me know how I can support. They might be the people though that are going to be like, why would you change that? That's dumb. Like, why are you going to change that? And from that, I will speak from a person who's been offended by someone who wanted to change before, because them wanting to change actually impacted my relationship with them. So then it's like, ooh, I don't think I want you to change, because then it's going to impact me too. So it's a totally selfish place. So know that if you hear that from someone, it's a selfish, like, but that's not what I want for you. So how can I support you in doing that? So just allow that and be cautious of who you're sharing this with, but find someone, share with them what that pattern is that you're wanting to shift out of. And then, so that was a whole lot of backstory to get us here. So now that you know what you're wanting to shift out of, you're in the spot where you're like, I'm ready, I want to change, I want to do something differently. Now it's the time to interrupt, and this is where bringing Loopy, my counselor, back in, because this is what she shared with me. She said, anytime that you feel yourself wanting to log in and play online solitaire, right? Like anytime I was going to that negative pattern that wasn't moving me forward, it wasn't helping me at all, she said, I want you to stop and just do one thing first. And here's what was cool. This is what I really appreciated, because I was already feeling a lot of angst of like, oh my gosh, what is this going to look like? Like, I don't know if I can actually stop doing this, because I was spending a ton of time doing that. It's sad when I look back, but at the time it was like how I spent a majority of my time, my awake time. I also slept a lot. And so she said, I just want you to do one thing first. And what that one thing was up to me. So she gave me some examples. She's like, literally anytime you feel yourself reaching for your mouse to go like click log in, she said, get up and go brush your teeth. Get up and do a lap around the house. Get up and, go get out of the immediate temptation zone. Like, get yourself out of the scenario first, right? So getting up and going somewhere to go do something quick. I didn't have to go like memorize a page in the dictionary or go do anything that was, that cost any money, or go do anything that was dramatic or just totally radical. Just get up, leave the immediate temptation zone, and go do something else. So brushing your teeth is across the board, very effective for lots of different habits. And another one that pops up is, and this is one that I found myself in as well, is emotional eating, right? And so, but brushing your teeth can be that pattern interrupt of like, okay, I just brushed my teeth. Like, I don't really want to, like, it feels nice and fresh. I don't really want to go ruin it with something that's going to, take away that minty freshness that I just gave myself. So that, just throwing that out there for anyone who's an emotional eater, that is also a helpful one. Or if you're like addicted to coffee, brushing your teeth can be a helpful, like, I don't know, minty coffee does not sound appealing at all. So, so that can be a thing, but it's finding whatever that one thing is for you. Maybe it's sending a text message to a friend, a trusted friend, again, right? Find those resources and posting, sending them a message just saying, hey, FYI, like, I'm really feeling tempted right now to log in, but I'm interrupting myself, and calling yourself out, like really acknowledging yourself for interrupting and working towards stopping that pattern. Because then anytime you write it and you're like, yeah, I'm choosing, instead of just defaulting and logging in and playing online solitaire. Goodness, my throat. Waking up, I'm talking so fast this morning. Instead of just going to your default of whatever that pattern is, it's acknowledging yourself and recognizing, like, no, you know what? I'm choosing to interrupt this. I'm choosing instead to do something else. And it's each time you're doing it, it's interrupting that pattern so that it's no longer your default. So, and here's the thing, I'm not like an addiction expert. I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm not going to like walk you through all these different fancy steps. I'm telling you what worked for me in what my addiction was. So I want to share that because that pattern might look different for every person, but this has been tried and true, one, for that addiction, but just in other arenas of my life where I'm like, okay, instead of just defaulting to that thing, I'm going to choose one action to put in between my trigger, whatever that trigger is for you that has you craving the pattern. As soon as I feel that trigger, I can choose to take one small action that's not my default. So instead of going trigger default, trigger default, trigger default, I'm going trigger action. And then it steers me away from going to the default at all, even. And I'm not saying this is 100% of the time totally effective and I never played online solitaire again. I'm simply saying it helps interrupt that pattern so that you're not stuck in trigger default, trigger default, trigger default. You can now move out of that and create a new pattern. And what I will say to that is, it is helpful to have a few different ideas that you already know what they are, so that when the trigger happens, you already have like a few options. Okay, I'm either going to get up and brush my teeth, I'm going to get up and walk around my house, I'm going to send a text message to a couple friends, just letting them know, like, hey, I'm choosing to interrupt my pattern right now instead of going straight to the default. So cheer with me, like, yay. Or calling someone if it would help to talk through it and just say, hey, like, I had a girlfriend call a few weeks ago. She was going through some stuff, and her pattern, her default normally is to go into extreme self-judgment and spiral into like worthiness issues and all of this, like questioning whether, maybe she is just a horrible person based on how, someone had approached her, or how someone had handled the situation that she was in. So she called because she recognized that pattern and she wanted to snap out of the default, right? So it was helpful for her to be able to talk through that and get someone, a trusted person's feedback and a trusted person's opinion, to help remind her, like, no, you're actually an amazing friend. And here are the, the giftings that I see and that I've experienced from you. And while that scenario is unfortunate and that's disappointing that that's how they chose to handle it, that's not actually an accurate reflection of who you are. So it's helpful to just get that feedback from people who know you and who can remind you, like, you are not your negative pattern. You are not an emotional eater. You have, you're a beautiful, wonderful person who has struggled with emotional eating. Sure. But you are not an emotional eater. Like, you are not your negative pattern. So the whole point of this, of interrupting and stopping negative patterns, is pretty clear, right? So you can interrupt and stop negative patterns, but it's really so you can release anything that's like weighing you down and anything that's feeling like it's not helping you move forward towards your goals. And I've just especially recently been so just invigorated around helping people reach their goals and getting the roadblocks out of the way, getting the mountains out of the way so that you can actually hit your goals. So I say all of that as a quick recap to what we talked about today before I wrap it up here. It's when you recognize, once you're at a spot where you're like, you know what, I want to step away from, or I want to shift out of this, XYZ pattern, then recognize that, acknowledge it, tell yourself and say, make a decision, like, I'm choosing to, moving forward, I want to step out of this pattern, so I'm going to set myself up in a way that's going to allow me to do that in the smoothest way possible. And then anytime you recognize a trigger or you have that, like, oh, I want to do the thing, I'm feeling tempted to go do the thing or to experience the high or whatever it is, anytime you're feeling that, it's it's interrupting between the trigger and the default. So right when you feel the trigger, it's then stepping into that alternate action. So you're not going towards the default, you're going towards a different action and a different direction, and having a few that you rotate through so that that different action and that different direction doesn't become a new addiction, right? So we don't want to shift from one addiction to another addiction. We want to simply break the pattern, break the default, so that you're not going from trigger to default negative pattern. So that's all it is. It really can be that simple. It's not necessarily easy to implement, but it can be that simple. And if you set yourself up and you have your little list, I keep doing this, keep a Post-it note right by your desk or right by wherever you normally feel. Right, for me it was my desk because it was online solitaire, and that's where I sat and played for all those hours. But wherever you feel it, if it's on your fridge, if it's emotional eating, if it's on your pack of cigarettes because you want to quit smoking, whatever that is for you, keep a little Post-it there with your interruption actions so that when you feel the trigger and then you go to do the thing, you're like, oh, that's right. No, I'm not going to do that thing. I'm going to go do this thing over here, and help get you moving in a new, fresh flow. Cool? That's it. That's as simple as it can be. So let it be that simple. And I would love to hear from you what you're welcome to share the pattern that you're wanting to break through, but I would also love to hear the interruption actions that you're choosing, and share them with the community here, because there's lots of people who want to work through this, and it's helpful to see some other ideas outside of brushing your teeth or taking a quick spin around your house. So with that, I'm going to clock out, and I will see you guys clocking. I don't clock in for this. It's not even paying myself for these. I don't know why I use that analogy, but I'm going to sign off. There we go. And I will see you all next week, every Thursday at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of Growth and Grace. See ya.